He's always crazy.
Yeah, just interference. Let the guy mess up himself, and everybody will vote him out.
I vote him out. Voting? Come on.
That sounds.
We don't want people
Should be the
voting.
right way, Jim.
Right. Yeah. Old school. The sun is rising back there, Mr. Fred.
Yep.
Started right there at the water line. Okay, Miss Barbara.
Yes, folks.
Come on.
Yes, folks. It's 11 a.m. Pacific Saturday. I'm PHred, and I'm with my co-host, Barbara Wainwright of Wainwright Global, the only woman brave enough to venture down into the rabbit hole with me on any show, but let alone this one where you can't tell it, but it's an all-male group.
That's right, except for me. Hi, Fred.
Howdy, ma'am.
Doesn't happen very often.
It's gone the other way during the one of my favorite shows I've ever done, which was How Would Your Life Be Different If You Were Born the Other Sex? And I was the only male with enough guts to venture into it, and it was still one of the funniest episodes I've ever had.
Yeah,
I still cackle. Folks, if you haven't heard it, you can go to you can find it on Apple Podcast. You can find it on YouTube, Amazon Music, Get Me Radio, Pandora, and iHeartRadio, as well as from the website. And it's a fun listen, as my co-host Barbara will tell you.
Yes.
We do have a live phone dial-in number today, 1-724-9-KPHRED or 724-9-KPHRED. So, what's up in Wainwright Global Land?
Oh, wow. Just so much exciting stuff. We're out there getting ready to provide coaching, which we haven't ever done before. I've taught over 6,000 people how to coach, as you know. However, this will be the first venture into actually providing coaching services, and the people that we're looking to help are first responders. Yes, we want to uplift people that have witnessed a lot of tragedy. Sometimes that can be very traumatic and leave an imprint on the emotional, physical, spiritual aspect of the person that is witnessing it. They're called in. Think about the 911 when the first responders had to rush into that building and the horrors that they saw. And recovering from that can be very challenging. They actually put their lives on the line when they're walking in there. So it's a job that I don't know if anybody that would sign up for that personally. I don't actually know anybody that would sign up for that type of job. I'll take that back. I do know one police officer. He's retired now. And, it just takes a lot of guts to be able to step up. And the same with a lot of these gentlemen here on the call today. Took a lot of guts to get out there and say, yes, I will do what's necessary to defend our country.
So I agree with you. I will tell you my wife's nephew, he's early 20s. He's actually part of the CAL FIRE, rides around in helicopters, goes down into fires, puts them out, he loves it. Way to, I think, burn things. But I continue to ask him, is he looking to make more work for himself? It's a special type of hero in my brain that's willing to run toward danger without special circumstances. Because there are circumstances I know that you know them, grandchildren. You mess with them.
It's over.
Amen.
It's over, all over.
So, who do you want to pick on to find out? The initial question we've been asking is about their year. So, who do you want to talk to first before we start the general question?
Well, I've actually never met Ben Biddick, so I would love to hear from him. What are you up to, Ben?
Mr. Ben.
It's a pleasure to be here. First of all, thank you, Barbara, for the question, and thank you for your work in service of first responders, former military, and anybody who has had enough love for another human being to sacrifice their own comfort in order to help another. So I'm very big on what you're talking about here when it comes to first responders. As a former law enforcement officer, as a former combat medic, as a former FBI trained hostage negotiator and crisis negotiator. I've worked in crisis intervention during the pandemic, so working with actively suicidal and homicidal clientele on a hotline in partnership with local emergency departments and law enforcement entities, medical providers, mental health providers, crisis staff there, going in to deal with people who are extremely isolated during that time, and dealing with the complex medical environment, as we understand, as increased bureaucracy and challenges in our medical system have come up. So understanding in deep detail about the stressors that occur in these communities, service staff who don't know what they're going to get into that day, but are willing to throw themselves and their lives on the line in order to help another survive another day. One of the things that I'm doing at Profusion Biometrics is using biometric and psychometric data to help bring quantitative analysis to the health of others. And that is very important for law enforcement, for EMS, for fire personnel, anybody who is jumping into these dangerous situations. And so what I love to do is augment their subjective experiences, and like you were saying, very, very traumatic experiences. Whenever there's a feeling of helplessness paired with terror, then you get post-traumatic stress. So being in advance of preparing people to go into these environments, the sights, the smells, the things that they'll experience, and then to bring subjective experience along with biometric data that can lead to some profound outcomes. And so that's what I love to do, with helping ensure that medical providers are able to have the information at their fingertips when they only get 15 minutes with someone, or when a mental health provider is overwhelmed and needs to have a patient who can clearly articulate their challenges in those windows of time. We help translate all of those experiences in a way where it doesn't re-traumatize the patient, and where we can get some personalized responses to treatment for these people, and even remote monitoring and assessment. So those are the things that are near and dear to my heart. And so I'm honored to be in the company of these amazing people who are augmenting service with tech, with education, with kindness, with mental health and emotional intelligence practices to ensure that we have humane systems that help the most honorable among us.
All right.
Good question. Can I ask you a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you say Profusion Biometrics and you talk about being able to synthesize the information from somebody so that a physician can help them like pretty quickly, and you said profound outcomes. I'm just wondering, is it a device? Is it a method? What is it that you're doing to provide these biometrics for these profound outcomes?
So wearable biometrics, the wearables that are out there, whether it's the Aura ring, whether it's a different kind of ring, whether it's the Apple Watch, whether it's some of the like NutriSense, where you're measuring glucose, things like that, developing those things, incorporating all of that data, depending on the person, because, for instance, one of our clients doesn't like wearing a watch at night. It's, if there's anybody who's neurodivergent, or there's some concerns about, that doesn't feel right on my skin. It creeps me out. It gets in the way of my sleep patterns, et cetera, but a ring doesn't bother me at all. So it's a unique perspective of how do you gather that data. Do they have a caregiver who can do that? What's their ability to communicate? What are they willing to use to gather that data and then organize that data for them? And then when we can do that and mix the quantitative with the qualitative, then we can help communicate. And when we can do that, I mean, if you look at dementia patients who can't communicate, if you look at somebody with a language deficiency or a different language opportunity, or they're just not very self-aware, or they're intoxicated and don't know and can't report, be a reliable historian. If you can't do that, then your medical provider is not going to be able to, in 15 minutes or less, as they're funneling people through and entering data more to get billing than it is to hear what they're dealing with, and they don't have time to do all that, let alone all the communication that needs to be done via language or written skills. If you have somebody with schizophrenia, or you have somebody who's not able to communicate in those ways, or dementia or poverty or whatever it is, we step in and facilitate the communication that ultimately oftentimes can be life-saving and increases the quality of satisfaction with the medical provider, because they're actually able to do something compassionate on behalf of another human being that they're trying to serve, contrary to what many of the systems and are set in place for them to do, which we're having a high suicide rate increasing in medical providers because they're not feeling like they're able to give quality care to people, and they're funneling people through. But then you also have increased satisfaction in the patients because they're feeling heard. They're having their symptoms translated for them. So that their physician can then translate that into action. And it's very specified to each and tailored to each person because they're unique. And so those are the type of outcomes we're having people feel heard.
I love that. Yeah, that's really great.
So the answer to your question is no, it was not a short question.
Great feedback. Wow.
But so there's a couple, you triggered multiple things in there. And the first one was, given your background, and I heard FBI and a whole bunch of interesting words there. Dude, what's the first anecdote you relay to somebody at a party when you first meet them?
I just listen. I just want to understand who they are. And I'm sure we'll find common ground of where we can connect. I just ask them about them.
I get them, but what's that first? Ultimately, there's a first anecdote. You talk to Jim, one of the Jims, and you figure out he'll talk to you about sports. No matter what, he'll talk to you about sports. So, given your background, I mean, you got a really unique background, and I respect it all. What's the first anecdote at a party you'll relate?
I don't know. I don't really go. I don't go to many parties. I'm
okay.
I'm pretty busy, and I like to spend time with the people that I love and care for, and then I'm out there hustling and serving others. Man, the need is so desperate. The needs are so desperate. I don't have time to get to many parties.
That's a true answer. I respect that answer. So when I hear what you're talking about, I think about my own, as many people know, my own sojourns within the medical field. And 45 days before I had my heart attack, I went into my doctor and said something ain't right, and he blew me off. And
Yep.
The fact that I now get to see 2 grandkids is testament to God and cardiologist and people seeing me and all this garbage. So I get that. And I also know in past the whole electronic monitoring thing, and I let my phone do it. Mm-hmm. So what's that added? I get where you're coming with it. I think it's a phenomenal idea, especially since I know at least one schizophrenic. It sounds like it's multi-platform. You're trying to help people.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's really tailored. It's got to be tailored to, and this is where I look forward to lots of different partnerships here, and where we're developing that is to, we're creating unique solutions for unique people, and that varied experience. It's meeting them where they're at, right? Whether you're a therapist, whether you're a cop going in a door, and you don't know, you get to dispatch has heard this unknown. That was always the most intense, when the dispatcher says unknown problem, and somebody has dialed 911, and you're going and you show up on scene. There's a blood trail or shouting or etc. Now you have seconds to make a decision, and you're in the mix of that. So creating solutions need to be really time sensitive. To do it in real time is really exciting, and then to have different biofeedback indicators and things of that nature. That's where it's really exciting. But we're working on getting there. At this point, though, yeah, there's multiple platforms, and it's unique to each person. What challenge are they seeking to overcome? Is it just that they want to communicate better with their primary care provider? Is it that a caregiver is extremely concerned about another person? Is it that loved one who sees someone battling with a substance use disorder or an addiction-related challenge? Those types of things.
I think that's all exciting, but the last comment, and then Barbara can pick her next victim. Last comment with you is, in some ways it scares the hell out of me, because it seems the next step on is just hooking people up into the matrix real time.
That's it. That's exactly.
Go ahead, Barbara.
All right, next victim, Robert Cohen. Do you go by Bob or Robert?
Bob.
Bob. All right. Hey, Bob.
Spell it backwards.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. I am delighted to get to know more about you and where you come from and what you do. And I guess our question of the day is, how's 2025 working out for you?
Well, so far, so good. I'm just trying to hang in there one day at a time. Nothing exciting. Just trying to, as I said, live one day at a time. Trying to, my hobbies are, as I play in a worship band, I'm playing bass right now. And I started out as a rock and roll guitar player, and I thought I was Peter Townsend when I was growing up. So I wear hearing aids now because of that. And
right.
So I had to back off, and I also wanted to do something that would help people musically.
I love that. I think that maybe that's something that musicians do when they retire from the getting out and performing stage. They go, hey, because I sang with the church here in Newport Beach for a year, because I was a singer in a band also, and so I wanted to just use that skill again. Yeah, so I get it. Going to the church and playing bass, that sounds very rewarding.
It is. As far as singing goes, I tried it the last time I tried to sing something. I was asked, can you sing Far, Far Away? They weren't talking about the name of the song.
All right.
Oh gosh. So besides playing bass for the church, what else have you been up to?
So one notable thing about Bob is, just as Jim Boswell has taken the incredibly brave task of rooting around in my brain of KPHred and pulling out the semblances and phenomenal plan to grow all the shows and attract new ones. And he's done that, whereas Bob, however, has been able to root around in my brain on other topics, including he had the poor, doomed plan, or support of last year's plan to learn the guitar.
Not really. We tried a little bit, but
again, it's all my fault. I have my guitar behind two Macintosh computers. Mm-hmm. See it every day. But yet it's the whole computer keyboard finger thingy. Someday.
And certain people were designed to do certain things.
There you go. Not the truth.
Amen.
So, Robert, Bob, tell me, what brings you here today?
Well, Fred just asked me, and I was just curious, more curiosity, to be honest.
All right.
Today is going to be one of those days where it's trying to get a drink of water from a fire hydrant, so I can only spend a short time here.
Okay.
So you folks are lucky.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it.
Go ahead, keep going. It's ladies' choice today.
Before we just jump into everybody, I want to just say welcome to James A. White Sr., Jim Boswell, Howard Larson, and Jim Treleaven. And let's hear from Jim Treleaven. How
this
are you
is
today?
our second 3 Jim day.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to start by commenting to you, Bob, that you mentioned Pete Townsend, who is my all-time favorite. I have seen him in concert 17 times.
Right.
Wow.
And you can still hear?
According to my wife, I never could, but that's another issue. But yeah, and in fact, I saw him 18 months ago. He's 80 years old now, and he played for 3 straight hours without.
Wow.
Jeez.
And just like when the first time I saw him was, almost 60 years ago. Not much difference. It's crazy. So you picked an awesome role model.
Well, he's one of them.
Yeah. So
All right.
2025. One more mention to you, Barbara, is my oldest granddaughter in San Diego, near you.
Yes.
Is her current serious significant other is a fireman who's studying to be a paramedic as well. So.
Wow. Yeah. So you're well aware of the trauma that they witness and then have to deal with.
Oh, I can't even imagine, actually.
Yeah.
In some ways, it sounds like we're building a business funnel here for you and Ben. All right, Jim.
Yeah, that too, Ben. Sorry for you as well. Okay, so 2025 has turned out to be how else can I say it? Like incredibly busy. I currently have 255 graduate students.
What?
And
Are you nuts?
no,
Wow.
yeah, I must be apparently, but it's the most I've ever had by far, and it's a little overwhelming actually. So
There's a lot of
I'm trying to keep up, and
How can you
but I,
process?
you know,
That's an impossible number.
it just about is, yes. So it's and the sad part of it is not how much work it is, but you know, devoting enough time to each of them is virtually impossible. But
you can't, yeah.
and you know, they are it's I mean, I love teaching and I'm doing that instead of retiring, but most of them are foreign students, which is just fascinating. It's not something I anticipated when I planned to do this many, many years ago. And you know, everyone I talk to is just, the stories, they're incredible. One of my female students that I talked to after class this week was from the United Arab Emirates, and went to an Australian school in the UAE, and she's here not that long ago and speaks with literally zero accent. I don't know how she does it. And her, you know, just talking to her about her background is fascinating. So that part is, you know, I'd like to be able to do that with all of them, but I can't. And many of them, as most of you do know, they're here on student visas, and we need to try to keep them in the U.S. And there are not enough permanent visas. I mean, it's very difficult for them. So I spend a lot of time outside of class, because I come from industry, trying to help them all find jobs in the U.S. And it would be to all of our benefit if these really smart kids who we educated could, they're not kids, but to me they are.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, they're kids. Oh my
They're
God.
for sure kids to me. So, it would be a tremendous benefit to all of us and to our economy if we could figure out how to help them stay. So that's been keeping me very busy. So I could go on, Barbara, but you tell me.
Well, I think it's fascinating. What would you say is the average age of your student?
I would say mid-20s probably.
All right.
Many of them have work experience. Some of them are parents.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so they're taking on a
I
huge...
always invite them to bring their children to class. None of them have yet, but and I'm serious about it, actually. So I have the granddaughter in San Diego. I brought her to class a couple times, but she's 21. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter in Chicago, and I am going to bring her to class one of these days. So
my daughter learned to play computer games when I would take her to work, and we'd play on the she and I and the other IT folks would play things like Doom and Ms. Pac-Man on the local area network.
See, she lives in Chicago. I'll take her too, Fred.
Now she's grandma, or she's mom to grandpa's grandkids. So,
But in any case, that's sort of, I would say the average age. I mean, there have been some students in their late 30s or even 40, but most are in their mid-20s. The most common country is India. The second most common is the Middle East, actually. Third is China. Fourth is Africa. And then a smattering of everywhere else.
Wow.
But it's, it's just... it's not something I anticipated, but that's just a fascinating part. And the stuff I teach is changes every week, so it keeps me going.
My goodness, I bet it does. I'm just going to throw this out there. Is it possible for you to get an assistant teacher, or do you have one to help you with that load? Because you're right, 255 students is huge.
I have 3.
Well, that doesn't include Jim Boswell.
Jim Boswell and everyone else who's
taking interns.
And all of you might get recruited in addition to Jim, but I have 3 teaching assistants, and in the past I've had 5. So I really do 5 is what I really need. And the school is they're very good about providing that kind of support. So, without that, it would be impossible.
Yes. I was going to say that would be really challenging. So I'm glad you have support. Otherwise,
I do.
Yeah.
There is support for sure.
Nice. All right, Fred, your turn.
Oh, I know what's going on. We just had, or actually it goes out this week for Pillars Principles, where Jim and Ray talk with Eric Martins, Senior Vice President of Development, was it, Jim? For Happiness Brands.
I believe that was his title, yes.
They've got over 1,000 locations across 6 brands in 2 countries, and it was part 2 of Take a Big Idea, Make It Bigger. And we actually wandered through what it would take to take a business from kind of startup to becoming a franchisor. Phenomenal topic, part 2. Everyone should listen. So I know he's doing that, among other things, like bombarding me with interns and things like that.
It's a great business model, actually. So
I love that. And I wouldn't say bombarding you with interns. I'd say blessing you with interns, but that's just my perspective.
Don't worry, you're going to get a team too, and you can deal with all the questions. All right,
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Who's your next pick? Who are we talking to next?
Okay, how about Jim Boswell? We haven't heard from him for a while.
Far away. You wanted me to talk about 2025? Was that it?
Yeah, something. What's happening? That's something that you set out to do in 2025 that is actually starting to work for you now.
Something I started in 2025. Well, okay. So I'm a retiree, right? And retirees, try different things to figure out what retirement's about. And of course, I'm also...
You're not really, Jim, by the way, but that's...
Well, yeah, I'm also a workaholic, so I'm still here. But this last year, I finally convinced my wife that part of living well is to have a place to get away to on short notice and, without a huge drive. So we have a hot springs town called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. And anybody that has ever heard of that wonders, why are they called that? Well, there was an old game show back in the day, and they could win that name. And normally it was Hot Springs, New Mexico, and they won the game, and so they adopted the name. They have a legal right to it. But the key draw is they have a lot of good hot water if you're into soaking and that sort of thing. So they're about 2 hours away. We've been working with a camping trailer down there at a local RV park for seniors, and we finally decided that's too small because you get there and then you get say, oh, it's crowded, let's go home. Well, we finally invested in a full-up RV, and so it's not completely new. So Jim gets the great little project of now fixing all the little things that have gone wrong with it. So I'm about halfway through that. So last year was good because we fixed a few major issues, and the next year we'll be fixing it so that we can actually drive it and go someplace. But it's great because we can run down there and have a little time away for 2 or 3 days, and it's no big deal, and then we can come home. So that's what it's like for a retiree. At the same time, I'm balancing out a podcasting thing, doing marketing on my own lifelong fulfillment initiative, and also trying to help Fred with KPHRED issues about, what's a radio and podcast station look like? What should they be doing? Where's the sweet spot? So that's kind of throwing me back on my old skills, which I used to do a lot of marketing and sales and that sort of thing. So it's kind of refreshing, but at the same time, it's a challenge because it's a different product, a different service, a different market. So that's been interesting.
Right. So that requires a lot of research on your part because it's a different market, right?
Yes, ma'am, it does. I've done a lot of deep dive marketing, both on the book side and also now because the internet has so much data in it, it actually has a lot to offer directly. Now, I have to admit, I tend to have to be very careful about which part I give credibility to. So I look to credible sources to base my reactions on. So I'll go to, the Department of Commerce and look at something there. The intermediary offerings of people that do data aggregation, which is a market and sales of a service, you have to be a little more careful about how you engage them because it's, secondhand or third-hand data. You don't know the process that's gone through. You don't know how often they refresh it. There's issues with that. So
yes.
It's kind of a complex thing, and it's becoming tougher, quite frankly, than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was so much easier because the money that it takes to take hard copy material and make it electronic was in big business and big government, people that you automatically trust because they've been around a while. Nowadays, the people who I would call intermediaries or agents who aggregate data and stuff, who knows? So it's changed a lot.
It's very true. You definitely cannot believe everything you read. Not today.
No.
You know, all I'll say is the scariest place he's had to go was into my brain to root out a whole bunch of the initial stuff. And
I was trying to be nice, Fred.
I get it. And you can tell the fact that he's still here attests to the fact that he used to have his hands on nuclear weapons and handled them successfully for them not to go off. So kudos to Jim for doing this.
No problem.
Anyway, I think this is a good time right now. As I said, I was just here for a short time. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here and say goodbye to each of you.
Thank you, Bob. Very nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Bob.
You take care. Stay healthy.
We'll take this point before you pick the next one to remind people they can chat at KPHRED.com, or you can dial into 1724-9KPHRED. This episode will be up by sometime tomorrow as a podcast that you can download from iHeartRadio, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. So, pick your next person.
All right, let's do JW.
I knew you were going to go for 3 Jims in a row. I knew it.
3 Jims in a row, right?
I knew it. I knew it.
All right.
You're muted, dude.
Oh, you're muted, Mr. JW, and we look forward to hearing from you about what you've been setting out to do in 2025 and how is your plan working out?
I probably didn't even do a plan because I jumped into it and it was moving at me so fast that I had to kind of duck and dodge. And I think the biggest thing was that there's an immediate challenge of possibly, even though I teach 15 different training programs, probably 25% of my business deals with something that they call DE&I in some way. Either I deal with them collectively, or I deal with diversity, which is what everybody. I deal with equity, which is what everybody. I deal with inclusion, which is what everybody. And I do that with law enforcement because I am law enforcement officer and I've been training police officers for about 20 years. So that's one of the areas where they have very extensive programming for police officers not to understand that they're moving into a space where they're going to be dealing with people of every kind of background, viewpoint, perspective, ideas, sanity, insanity, what have you. So those are some things there. So it's been a challenge, and also probably a plus because I'm really creative. So I've taken all the same programs that I always teach, and I just changed the name. And because we were teaching them before they were called DE&I, it was called communications, things along those lines. So I'm getting really creative and working with them. So that's probably a bigger thing that I'm doing. The other thing is coaching. I've always done coaching. I've had my company for 30 some odd years, but I always coached for 30 some odd years, but I've never made coaching a primary product until I met Miss Barbara Wainwright. And so I got a recertification. So I'm like the coach's coach, man, coach mastery. So what I'm doing there is trying to say, how do I slide that out into the forefront? And I'm looking at some of the things that you talked about with coaching with law enforcement officers. I'm also looking at coaching with veterans, because one of the things that I see whenever I'm out at the vets is that there are a lot of guys and ladies who are having a lot of challenges, and all the challenges don't equate back to psychological counseling. Some people, because they went in very early in military, they just don't have any real good coping skills like emotional intelligence, inclusion intelligence, conflict resolution, all those kinds of giving and receiving feedback. So I'm kind of pushing a piece out to VA to start to look at maybe those are some of the things that our law enforcement folks need in order to be able to round out some of the challenges that they're experiencing. I know my time in the military itself, we did a lot of talking. And one of the things that was really good as we drove around delivering coffee, everyone loved to be in our vehicle when they took their break because we talked about all kinds of interesting things. And they said, what are we going to talk about tonight? You know, and they would get in and we would talk and share. And it was really a great thing. So I'm doing that. And then with the Better World, Barbara and I, what we're doing is that conscious conversation, uplifting humanity. And so we're trying to create a better world. So how do we create this better world where people can feel valued, respected, and appreciated, and be able to, inclusion intelligence says, the more I meet people who are different than me and have an honest dialogue with them, my Q increases. So it's not for me doing it for those other people. It's me doing it for myself, to meet as many people as I possibly can, trying to understand what's happening with them. And I just get smarter as a result of it. My consciousness umbrella just gets broader and broader and broader and broader. So that's the stuff that I'm working on. And I'm not, even at my age now, every morning I wake up, I get a new idea. I call my daughter. She said, Dad, don't call with another damn new idea. I don't want to hear it. But they just keep coming at me. They keep coming at me. So that's kind of like what 2025 is good. It looks good. Plus, like Fred always says, I get my 10 grandkids and 9 great grandkids. So I have to make sure that I'm on it. And they're always coming up with issues and problems. And my granddaughter's engine blew up, and all of a sudden, Granddad, I need a $2,500 engine, right? Yeah. How much you got? 60 cents. All right, that's another story. So those are the kind of things that I'm doing.
All right, so folks, I swear to God, this show is not designed to become a funnel for Ben. Seriously.
Ben's got it. I'm calling Ben when I get off.
Seriously.
I got a ring right here. I didn't know what it was for. I'm gonna put this bad boy on.
There you go.
I had no bleeping clue. There are some other things you triggered me on, but that one, yeah. Let us continue on. Who else did we miss?
We saved the best for last. That would be Mr. Howard Larson.
Wait. Time out. It's not Mr. You can call him the marketing Viking.
Oh, that's right. It's Dr.
Or you can call
Pillage
him
and plunder.
Dr. Howard Larson, the Viking.
Marketing Viking.
I'm
going to have to get a Viking hat like Fred has.
Yes. Yes.
Next time I go up to Minnesota, I'll buy one.
Okay, I'm down with that. My daughter bought me Thor's hammer, which I then have bequeathed on the kids without the thunderbolt it shoots. That mean I was not. But like I said earlier, my grandson did convince his father into buying him a longbow at Five Below after Grandpa got his crossbow from Five Below. Blah. And wait till they see Grandpa's 6-foot two-handed sword tomorrow, and know that ultimately it comes to my grandson, the smaller 5.5-foot sword I have.
I got a lightsaber over there.
That's cool, but mine's honed. Well, needs to be honed steel. So you can call him any of those things, but you can't call him Mister. So go back to that now.
I got it. Okay. I apologize for the misnomer there. Dr. Howard Larson, tell us about your 2025 and what's new and working.
Well, December and January are always my bad months because everybody sort of shuts down their marketing. But from 24 to 25, there's a shift. Very interestingly, I'm seeing more interest in dialing for dollars with real live people. Not
two real live. Wait, time out. Two real live people, or from real live people?
Using real live people.
That's
Okay.
interesting because there's a
Not
lot of
AI people or little, go in and then you get the click and 2-second delay.
right.
But there is a renewed interest in, at least on the business side, people making telemarketing calls.
That is so interesting because I am getting pitched, because I'm in business too. Have been pitched the last few days anyway with companies saying, let AI make those sales calls for you.
I get them too.
Yeah, I bet you do being in the marketing
They
business.
want to do my telemarketing work. Some hidden robot somewhere
Right?
thinks,
All I gotta say is you guys are lucky. I get them calling and wanting me to get a new TV cable box, and they get really pissed off when I tell them we don't have cable TV.
yeah, well, but that's probably the most sizable shift so far. I mean,
That is so interesting. I love
that we're going back to old school using real people.
I love it though. I love hearing that because, there's so many things that you can automate. This is why, I don't know. It's one of my pet peeves is recorded education. Really neat, maybe convenient. However, there's like 99% of the people that purchase a recorded course do not complete. So that leaves you with a 1%. And one of my biggest pet peeves is, since I teach people how to work with people, real people, shocker.
Oh my gosh,
right?
the soft skills.
Right? So, and then there's people that are recording that kind of education. Here's how you work with people, but they're feeding them a recording. I'm like, how do you learn to work with people? By watching a recording. It's really, you need to work with people to learn how to work with people, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you. I love that you're, that's the trend. Brilliant.
We have lost the soft skills of people interaction. It was happening before COVID. COVID really accelerated it. And now people are just hungry to talk to a real live person. And it's really hard to hang up on a real person.
Here. I just love
It's real easy to click on the automated message. But when slap my face, one of the Larson ladies calls you, it's real hard to hang up on.
It's much easier to just hang up on Howard. And I never hang up on him. I always make him hang up on me.
I'm working one account because it's fun to do cold calling. I'm masochistic. But even I am getting at least one lead an hour on cold calling.
I love that. I love hearing that so much.
All right.
And you're so right. I just have to say, because it's another pet peeve. When you get those machines that say, enter your code or press the button, press this button or press that button for that. And you're like, I need to speak to a human being.
Oh yeah, but now you're going. We'll do a whole topic one day about customer support. So I want to use this as a springboard into our topic because Howard said, people are coming back to needing to talk to each other, and I really agree with that. But that's the basis we're going to go from to our topic today, which is AI in the military. How do we keep from being destroyed? Because personally, I hate seeing any war, but I'd much rather have it not be he who has best technology kills everybody off because the technology goes rogue. Look at all of Hollywood's history. AI technology goes rogue or evolves beyond us. And this is not to insult any AIs out there, but if you're listening, you could be going this way. And you can dial in, and I will not, stop an AI from calling in at 1-724-9-KPHRED. All right. So what I'm going to say is the dude that first brought up, I think it was Grace Hopper, the woman who launched military AI hood a long, long time ago. Jim, come on and tell us about Grace.
I have met Grace Hopper several times. And for those of you who don't know who Grace Hopper is, she was a programmer, probably the most well-known programmer in World War II, on two computers, the Whirlwind and the Mark IV. And she was in the Navy. And I don't know that she she developed the original version of COBOL, for example, but she was involved in the Navy and ultimately became an admiral, passed away in the early 90s, I believe. But I was able to meet her several times. She was just the most fascinating, one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. She was very good at trying to make technology seem accessible and understandable to most people. And the example that she would use was she would carry around in her purse a length of wire that was approximately between 11 and 12 inches long. And she would explain to people when she would hold it up that that's how far electricity traveled in 1 nanosecond. But she was fascinating. I don't know that she was directly involved in a lot of AI, but she was certainly a pioneer in
programming languages
and software development, without question. And if you saw pictures of her, she really looks like a tiny little old great grandmother. I mean, at least when she was an admiral, but just a fascinating person. Your references to Hollywood, when we talk about AI, I use the movie War Games a lot when I speak about AI, because it's probably parts of it are just brilliant, from a movie that's like over 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew Broderick, Ali Sheedy, and a bunch of other people. But the intent of the movie was that humans were not trustworthy when given we're not trustworthy with nuclear things and dangerous weapons. So they decided to use a computer they weren't calling it artificial intelligence even then, but that's what it was. It was a computer that would actually be not tasked with doing anything complicated, but when it was told to launch the missiles, it would launch the missiles. But humans were reluctant to do that. So it's we could talk about that movie forever, but it's a perfect example of AI when it comes to military usages. The one that before that, which is a little bit older, is called Colossus, the Forbin Project.
Exactly.
If
Bingo.
anyone has seen that one is just a really good one. It's not technically as brilliant as War Games, and there's some technical issues with War Games, or with War Games that's sort of silly, but it was good for dramatic impact. But anyway, Colossus, the Forbin Project was, and the sort of outcome of that was the AI computer, which was like this giant building, because computers looked like that in those days. But it had no physical attributes where it could implement any of the bad stuff it was trying to come up with. But, now computers do, so that's a different story. But, or computers can. So the net of my story about AI is that AI, in and of itself, is not going to, by itself, kill us all. However, AI in the hands of bad actors, just like weapons of any kind, can be used for bad purposes. So I think that's the challenge, is to not let AI fall into, it already has, of course, there are a million examples, but fall into the hands of bad actors. So I could go on forever, but you can stop me here. So.
All right, so we'll stop you there, because I seem to remember in at least one scene in the Forbin Project, at least the movie, where Colossus orders the Russian PhD assassinated, And unless they give it power connection to what it wants, it would launch nuclear weapons at both Washington and Moscow.
Right. And it was the collusion between the Soviet version in those days of Colossus, which was the U.S. version.
Exactly.
Got together.
So I keep hearing that in my mind, and then we're up to the Matrix, so it's all good. So let's talk to the man who actually got to play with nuclear weapons, Mr. Boswell. Come on down.
Here I am, and I'm not radioactive.
I'm not sure. That could be why you're in New Mexico, you know.
I know.
They won't let him leave.
I think Jim has stated something that's pretty important. I think he's right about his conclusion. And I have a different perspective because, yes, I operated on a SSBN nuclear submarine. At one point, as an assistant weapons officer, I was the guy who crawled into a Poseidon missile, and closed it out so that we could go protect the country. So I've sat under a missile launch vehicle with the engine right above me, knowing that if it ever lit off, I'd be a crispy critter and nothing flat. I've also seen the MIRVed warheads as well, so I'm acquainted with that. I also, on board, we had some sophisticated torpedoes, early generation, of course. This is back in the mid-70s or so. And the key thing about all these launch systems and protection systems were a couple of things. One is that our job as an SSBN was entirely what's called defensive. It was to deter anybody to do anything against the United States because they knew that the retribution that we could deliver back was untenable.
Right.
In other words, it's called mutually assured destruction. And that was the strategy of the day. And we had fleets of ballistic missiles like mine throughout the seas around and so forth. So from a defensive posture, that's what we did. The way the process worked was, yes, we had computers on board, some ancient ones that still had, magneto-optic or magneto-electric switching, but we also were getting the first generation of PCs led by a Tektronix 30-pound luggable and starting to learn to do navigation with HP handheld PCs, corroborating our star reduction charts. So we saw all of that. That was very interesting. As a techie, that was very intriguing. I liked it a lot. But the way the government ran it was they would put, computers on these torpedoes. They would have them on the missiles, obviously. But the human element was the trigger. So you see movies about the missile silos and there's two guys with two keys, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that was the interrupt in how the command control system was reevaluated at those points about the validity of a launch order. We
that
had
was the
something
first scene in war games, by the way.
Yes, exactly. And so we had the same thing amongst the 16 missiles that I dealt with on my submarine. Now, the problem is that the rush to decision that's required in the current generation of weapons and weapon systems that we use, both ours and our opponents, has accelerated. Decisions are now down to the nanosecond level, which human beings do not operate at that level. We just don't. Right. It doesn't matter how good it's ever going to get. Until we get a computer augment for our brains, we won't be that fast. So the problem is we are back again in mutually assured destruction territory, whether we are pursuing that or not. China being one, Russia being another, and the Middle East to some extent. we're just far enough away that we didn't have to participate in that. But the problem is the weapons now are very sophisticated. There's an author called David Poyer that takes the U.S. Navy to war with China. And it's very informative about the checks and balances in what's called the Combat Information Center around what a human can do. And he shows you the evolution of looking at big screens in an air-conditioned Combat Information Center to where they're wearing a virtual headset and looking at the choice of things and getting inputs from all kinds of platforms. Air Force submarines coming back to a destroyer or a cruiser, including land-based radars and stuff like that, and satellites and drones, to the point that no human being can process that fast enough. So knowing that, what's our alternative? Our alternative is electronic. It is algorithmic leading to, well, are we going to let the algorithms create their own, which is really what AI is about? And are we really going to abdicate our responsibility as human beings in the decision process? Yes, we are. The nice thing about it is algorithms have no emotions whatsoever. It's data in, data out, right? If your algorithm's bad, you're going to get bad results. If your algorithm's good, you're going to get good results, and you got to get them very quickly. And actually, you become a roadblock to the final decision because we are too slow. So the question is, what are we going to do and how are we going to manage it? And not only what are we going to do in this country, but what is China going to do? What is Russia going to do? Everybody else that has a nuclear weapon, you have to actually look at them and their thought process too. And the only way to stop this is to disarm across the world.
Right.
And I don't see that in our near future.
A better world.
So I find there's risk in AI. I think the AI we're exposed to at a commercial level, trying to, do our decision processes for us, is highly suspect. But I think the military has a charter to maintain control of that. Now, I would also say that I'm not encouraged about the person who has, carries around the football in this country, nor in any other country for that matter. I don't trust Putin. I don't trust our president to necessarily make the right decisions, but they are the key trigger at this point. And then the AIs have the ability to perhaps do everything without our assistance or interference, or us being able to say that's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. So I see loss of control as a real issue moving forward.
All right. So the first thing, wow, a whole lot there. a whole,
Yes,
It's frightening.
a whole lot there to unpack. You had your hands on MIRVs and you couldn't get me at least one?
No, and you wouldn't want it because you'd get sick from it.
No, I wouldn't. I know how
Before
to
you
get
do
rid
anything
of
with
it. Okay, so we're there. I hear what you're saying, and my fear is this. I get that, militarily we need to do this, so on and so forth. But I look back and I think that we're talking about unleashing something that can evolve. And the one thing in all tech I come back to was something I learned early on from my father. And you said bad algorithm, garbage results, and good algorithm, good results. And see, I would argue with that because I learned early on garbage in, garbage out. Doesn't matter how good or bad the algorithm is. If it's being fed stupid data, it's going to do stupid things. So
For sure. I don't have a complaint with that.
I agree with you. And then when I look at that step, I think about the military. And there was the incident, I think it was in May of 23, where they were controlling, I don't remember if it was an Air Force or a Navy drone. And they had to deny that the drone had tried to kill the controller because it was stopping the drone from creating or achieving maximum results. And the truth wasn't that it had tried to kill the controller. It had taken out the controller's tower so it could remove the human element to go off and kill. Now, when I look at this is caused by programming issues being too rigidly defined. And I think about the military, and they're not known to be wildly creative in what they develop.
Well, Fred, a guy like myself obviously didn't have anything to do with developing the missiles or the torpedoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was done by, naval research labs. It was done with PhD level people in there and a few very talented people. So, yeah, a lot of times we're managing weapons in the field that, no, we don't understand the guts like you'd like us to.
Mm-hmm.
Too complicated, too hard to learn, and that's not what we're being paid for. We're paid to be out there,
Yes.
manning it, making sure it's got electricity, it stays dry, and it stays ready to function. So you're absolutely right about that.
And
I think
now,
you both touched on an interesting challenge, and that is I don't doubt that the design of the missiles and those systems, the hardware, is very sophisticated and generally reliable in a negative way, but reliable.
Mhm.
My fear, having been involved in the software industry forever, is the software, which is, of course, the AI. And I'll cite an example. It's not a military, well, it could be related, is the two Boeing 737s that crashed a few years ago was because of software. They tried to solve a hardware problem with software, and it didn't work. And so my fear is that, the software world, which is the AI piece, is tremendously unreliable in so many ways.
So let me ask you a question, Jim. In that instance, is the software programmer or the company, are they criminal?
Well, in case of Boeing, you mean?
Yeah, in the case of Boeing, if we want to be specific, is Boeing criminal by having done that and used the public test of their 737 stretch that killed people? I mean,
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. I don't have a really good answer for that. But the issue was that Boeing, which is in the technology development and engineering space, famously one of the best engineering companies in the world.
right.
And what happened was, so they built the 737 MAX airframe, and the engineers said, we really need to, they came up with the 737 MAX engines, and they said, we really need a new airframe because the engines, while they may be more efficient, more reliable, and a million good things, the existing 737 airframe could not adequately support those new engines.
Right.
And the finance people, not to pick on finance people, said, we can't afford that, so you're going to have to work around it. And the workaround was software, which, as I said, scares the, pardon my language, shit out of me anytime we're relying on software. And that turned out to be the issue. So, is Boeing as a company culpable? I think yes, for sure. And, there's the various players in the story. Is it the senior management? Is it the finance people? Is it the engineers? I don't know. The engineers should have said, no, we shouldn't do this. But I don't know the details,
as
inner
the
workings
engineers,
of that. But it's a really good question.
Yeah. Those people want to keep their jobs. So many of them are asked to make a decision. But they know that if I don't make the decision the way the big boss wants me to make the decision, I won't have my job. So they lean into whatever it is that's going to satisfy them. It's just our system. I think we need a lot of Ben's technology hooked to all of us to know when we are at a point where I'm making the decision and and I'm not under pressure to make that decision. I personally think we're going to destroy ourselves. When I look at my job, I was outside of all those missile sites and guarding people and trying to make sure that the right people went in and that they signed in and that's a mess in and of itself. Everywhere, every step. I just think that something catastrophic is going to have to happen before we, as quote human beings, all of us from all of the different countries, China, and before we think that this thing is real. That's all I see. Just looking at what's happening now.
There are too many, as they say in engineering, too many points of failure.
Okay, I like
Starts with what you mentioned, Jim, in terms of, is the premier of North Korea trustworthy with nuclear weapons? And I would venture to say no, and other countries as well. But
and here,
and then there's the hardware, and then there's the the more we rely on software, that's what really scares me, more than humans actually. But all of that stuff is developed by humans, of course, so it comes back to us. And I don't have I wish there was some clever answer to the whole thing. And you mentioned Jim earlier, mutually assured destruction. And at the end of the movie War Games, the computer figured out that was what could happen and decided not to play, as it were. So decided to just withdraw from the whole thing. It was actually very brilliant stuff for that old, written by Hollywood. But
I get it, but here's the thing. That implies the computer had value for human life. And my belief is if you're designing an efficient killing machine, a la Terminator, it can't have a regard for human life, because that would inhibit it in its true purpose of killing the enemy, which other countries' folks look suspiciously like ours.
I think that's right. And at the end of War Games, the computer was not at all the least bit concerned with human life. It was simply playing it out as a game where mutually assured destruction.
No one wins.
Was a no-winner. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So now you get to the point where it figures out somehow it can, a la the Air Force Navy drone, and then you got a real problem. Which brings us to, who haven't we heard from, Barbara?
Mr. Ben and Howard.
That's right. I heard from Ben on his thoughts on AI.
So the dude is on the forefront of hooking people up to the Matrix. So bring it, dude.
So, yeah, I'd love to weigh in on this. And oftentimes in the conversation thus far, and as we look at it, right, we have these interests. We have the American interests, we have Chinese interests, we have Russian interests, we have all of these different components. You had Zelensky talking about Europe needing an army of its own in response to Russia here recently, and potentially not having the support of the United States. So basically you have all of these different groups, peoples, societies, nations, and all of these groups are posturing and defending and seeking to sustain their existence and that basically have the most satisfying existence possible, right? And then you have certain leaders of these groups who have agendas which include sustaining their power over a group of people. So oftentimes what we've heard in the conversation so far is mention of good. What is good? What is, and then the question that follows is what is bad or evil? And so we have these questions about what is good and evil, and we have questions about computers who would be utilized in order to inflict harm on others and eradication potentially of others, and who has the control of such a massive, powerful capability. So my thought is, from my perspective is, and it was also mentioned here that the statement about, are we to a point where there needs to be some sort of transcendent human increased awareness or consciousness to the fact that that ultimately, if we're not going to have this amount of conflict, if we're not going to have these wars, there needs to be some sort of global understanding that supersedes and is more powerful than the desire to be in charge of others or to harm others. So ultimately, when we stop seeing other people as the enemy, when we stop seeing people as the component that needs to be eradicated or harmed, where if, for instance, we saw apathy as the enemy, if we saw hatred as the enemy, if we saw the negative influences of whatever it is that gets in the way of human flourishing as the enemy, that changes the game. It then says, when we talk about Putin, or we talk about Kim Jong-il, or we talk about any of these situations, like, my thought is, or if we even talk about the United States and what we have done and what we choose to do and what we say we want to do in conflict with others, and what are we going to do, what is good and what is bad, what is evil, what is, these types of things. No human being that I know is entirely good, and no human being that I know is entirely bad. So if we focus on having a technological capability that balances that out, and ultimately when we look at the human being, it's just one element of a societal gathering of human beings, right? And I love what James JW had to say about the diversity and these different ways of communicating, right? When we have human beings who are imperfect going into imperfect situations, and we're seeking to control populations or suppress others or this or that, we all become harmed in that process. But when each human being has technological capabilities, resources, etc., added to the flourishing of all the good things that exist within human beings. So if we look at that, a lot of the mental health professionals or a lot of healthcare oriented professionals talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. You have different researchers who say there's 7 dimensions of wellness. You have others who say there's 8. And basically what they're talking about is emotional, financial, physical, environmental, occupational, spiritual, social, and intellectual components of the human existence, the human experience. And if we have an entire human race that is focused on the thriving of that human experience, that being in these ways, so our environment is designed to create the best of human experience. If we have all of these factors being invested in, I think that's the thing that overrides I'm in charge, so I make the decisions, and so I am going to sustain my survival and the people like me's survival, and I will kill you if you get in the way of us doing that. When we stop seeing other people as the enemy or as the parasite or as the infliction, when we stop seeing that and we have a collective awareness that says, whoa, we're all being here in these ways, and these are our experiences, and when we're so engaged and intoxicated by the miracle of being alive and aware of it, that we stop seeing each other as the enemy, and we stop saying that Russia is bad or China is bad or America is bad, and we stop having leadership that says that is manipulative to stay in power in order to sustain their ability to wield that satisfaction, right? We have a lot of class issues, right? We have wealthy groups, and now then we have those who are not wealthy. We have all of this, and if we stop seeing people as the opponent and we start seeing the concept of all that's my take on it. And that's why I want to invest in human beings. And I think if we get to the point where that becomes our focus, and so all of our, ultimately, if you use nuclear weaponry as a metaphor for the destruction of something, and an immense biological physics, radiological, all of these things that we use, the question from my perspective is, what are we trying to eradicate? And
I think you raised just a brilliant question.
Wow.
Okay, just a second. JB had his hands up first.
Okay, you go.
But before he
Okay.
gets to go,
I could defer to my pal here.
whatever, you two can jump ball, and there's a sports metaphor to make Jim happy.
My comment
It's the
was,
Jim jump.
Wait, time out though. Time out. There's a Fred comment here. Because literally what I heard was we need to get rid of stupid people.
Well, that's a tougher challenge.
No, it's not.
It's not stupid per se, but
Yeah, right.
I have
Stupid people do
raised some really interesting comments, which I can comment on. So,
Stupid
but you can
people-
go first, Jim, if you want.
Stupid people do stupid things, and the more powerful tools you give them increases the destruction, is what it comes down to.
That's what I started with. Bad things in the bad hands of bad actors. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Jim.
number one is, well, I have two questions. Number one is an observation that we have not progressed to this point in our evolution by cooperating. In general, there has always been an element of aggression, or, I need this more than you need this, and because I'm more powerful, I get it, right? That's one issue. So I don't think human beings have this self-maintaining notion of those eight things that Ben was good to share with us. So that's one issue. The other thing is, I don't see us being very good at creating consensus about what is good for everybody on the planet. Therefore, that should be the guiding principle that we adhere to. I don't see any of the nuclear players ever agreeing about much, except under duress. And, henceforth, you see them clustering, right?
Right.
Pakistan and North Korea, you see these alignments based on their selfish interests. So I have a problem with thinking, as much as I'd like to see us adhere to a higher principle, I think we're on our way there, but I don't think the dominant thinking is of that type. It's what's best for me in my own selfish notion.
I think, that's both Ben and Jim, you had great comments. So, and I don't think there's an easy answer, but let's go back historically to World War II, where we all tried to kill each other.
Sure.
And to some extent did.
We were
And there's
pretty
some
good at it.
interesting questions that come out of that. The first one I'll cite is using movie metaphors again. If you think and go back to look at the movie Judgment at Nuremberg, which I think is really fascinating, because the people that were on trial, the Germans, the sort of internal conflict that comes out in the movie about how are these really smart guys who really weren't starting out to be evil, how did they end up doing what they did? Right. And the internal struggle that comes out of that movie is just fascinating to me on an individual level. That's the bad news. The good news is, at the end of the day, who are two of our biggest allies, Germany and Japan? I mean, how did we end up trying to kill each other and now we're best friends? I don't get it.
So are you saying we should bomb the crap out of China, Russia, and North Korea so they become our good friends later?
Well, not necessarily, Fred.
Don't touch that one. Don't touch that one.
Well, all right. So
I won't go there.
Jim, I'd like to remind us all that we put the American dollar to work with the Marshall Plan, which rebuilt Germany. We did the same thing in Japan. So, yeah, they didn't like it, but we, by spending all that money on their infrastructure and rehabilitating them, yes, what were we? Were we still the enemy? I actually think at heart we still were, but then they have a vested interest to being at least amenable to working with us.
Yeah, and I think
what reason does North Korea have to work with us whatsoever? They're a nation that's starving to death.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Why would Pakistan work with us? I mean, we held a gun to their head after 9/11 to make them collaborate, but they have no vested interest. We don't do the right things in our foreign policy to create that synergy between our country and theirs. And frankly, there's a lot of little countries that can never be democracy. There is no education that would support that kind of system. And we waste our dollars and our efforts and our focus by doing the wrong things.
All right.
And my opinion, Barbara was one to say.
All right.
Oh, no, go ahead, Barbara. You're up.
All right. So, and then I want to bring in so Jim took us back to World War II. So I do want to give the guy who came over with the Vikings that raided the UK shores and ultimately found America a chance, because he can take us back even further to those days. So go ahead, Barbara.
That is true.
Okay, so my thought went to what I think was a bigger destruction to humanity was the development of the bioweapon COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that AI had any part of that.
Yeah, but in Wuhan, China, where they built it, why weren't they wouldn't collaborate with the CDC. Okay? They still refuse to admit fault for it.
Right?
We don't have a relationship with China that works.
Right.
We don't have one with Russia that works.
True.
Right?
So I want to, if I can go back to one comment.
You got to jump in there quick, Ben. Real quick.
About human nature, and then you can go, Ben. But you guys know more about this than I do anyway, but somebody mentioned the competitive nature of humans. On a micro level, that is hugely positive. As a free market person, that has generated more good for mankind than anything else.
Yes.
Not even close. If we could do it on the micro level works great. On the macro level, I'm not sure how to translate that to do the same thing. But on the micro level, human competition is created more good for mankind than anything else.
Well, it pushes us farther and farther. If you think about it in terms of the Olympics, right? After year, somebody breaks a record, right? People, they're competing and they're pushing themselves to be better. And that can be true in business and other applications as well, that we get pushed to do bigger things.
Without question.
It comes down to intent. What is your intention, right?
No sports. No sports.
As you're in competition with one another, it's towards what goal? Because competition is also a holocaust. The competition is, I am going to inflict my will on you, and I have created you to the enemy. So I am going to compete with you, and I am going to destroy you. But then it's like you said, the intent. So for me personally, my thought on how we can create some tremendous change when it comes to competition is what is the intent behind it? And if that competition is for you to be your very best, like what happens then? We're rebuilding Japan after this infliction has occurred, or Germany. Where do these bonds come from, right? So if it's a rehabilitative, cathartic, it's those days. You can't hate the person that's in front of you. You can't hate that person that you come to, and just because you're intelligent doesn't mean that you have goodness. So you can have a level of intelligence, but if that intelligence is nefarious or not out for the good of others, then it becomes extremely destructive. And what I see North Korea as a very simple. I see that. I mean, we could handle that problem very easily if we're using technology to expose an entire populace that's starving, manipulated, coerced, harmed, abused, exploited, dominated. We could very easily expose an entire nation to what they've been missing out in the entire world for the last how many decades and centuries. And the amount of upheaval and chaos that would erupt from that. I think the thing that prevents us from doing that is the relationship with China and the tentativeness of dealing with China. But if but that would be very simple to get rid of those regimes. And if you have and if you look at that, right, so those two instances that were brought up, Japan and Germany, right, very horrific, and it's very simple. Hitler took the hate and the desperation. He took the desperation of a poor and desperate, struggling, chaotic situation, and he exploited it with hatred. And hatred is a profound motivator. Hatred is very powerful, and it gets people to take action.
He had alignment around hatred.
Exactly, and it gives them a direction. It says they're the enemy, they're bad. But again, if we channel that towards, and so we have a decision to make, right? And the amount of harm that comes from that, and those leaders who would go forward with this because they weren't, and also like James White, what you said there about those people in those positions who don't want to give up their job. They don't want to find the solution because their job then goes away. Healthcare companies don't want to find cures for things because it takes away from all the profits that can come from treating a chronic illness. Like when we stop all that and we go and the insatiable appetite is for health potential, fulfillment, etc. I think we get there, like we talked about, and this brings us back to those comments that have said that competition, self-interest, and that's where we're at. But what happens when we do have nuclear missiles eradicating entire portions of the globe? And what happens when we're dealing with radiological fallout in our natural systems where we do have a smaller population? Is that the point that takes our evolution into the place where we stop saying that the fellow human beings are the enemy because they look different than me, or because they have different language, or because they have a different value system? Like, my thought is that I'm hoping that we can all come and a populace that's been dominated, manipulated, exploited by power structures that are very self-serving. I'm hoping that conscious evolution happens on our own prior to an absolutely devastating occurrence. I don't know, but that's what I work for every day in hopes. And that's what I try to raise the awareness of, simply by having conversations like this, simply by creating services to orient us to that, because ultimately it's very clear. We can learn this lesson now before we devastate each other.
Right.
Or we just go down with it and we can see what happens, and will it be, a world war with nuclear capabilities, and will we have a human contingent that survives that, or will we just blow ourselves into whatever? But all I know is I have this present moment. I have the opportunity to with this sphere of span of control that I have of orienting each other to that, or I could just participate in the madness, and I can work the harm and kill as much as I can to dominate my sphere of the influence. But that's not something I'm willing to do, or nor do I want, because it ultimately, I guess that's my take. I'll let others speak.
Okay, so
That's DE&I.
Time.
I'd like to have you be president for a while.
Yeah,
Okay?
I would vote.
My question is not with anybody on this radio cast. My question is, our leaders don't think like we do.
They don't. Yes.
Okay.
So here's
and what's what?
Wait. Time out.
Wait, I have a thought.
I know, and I'll get to it just a
It's a
second.
workaround for everything we've been talking about, which I hadn't thought of before. So
I want to hear it.
So we'll go there, but first, what I heard was basically JW going, "Can't we all just get along?"
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
So I'm
actually,
down with that.
I'll come back to that one as well, actually.
And I'm down with that, but now I want to take it further. Something that, because you've all cited Germany and Japan, okay? Now, and you cited Hitler, a very bad dude, evil mass murderer, so on and so forth. But what I want to, and Ben talked about the hate and fear he tied into, and JB talked about the Marshall Plan. And I want to point out to everybody that Germany was pretty much decimated and humiliated in World War I.
First World War.
And the Weimar Republic, a basically foreign imposed structure, was unable to govern, and the enlightened governments of the UK, France, Woodrow Wilson's League of Nations, all good-meaning folks, literally impoverished the Weimar Republic because of reparation fees.
That's right.
Which ultimately their own stupidity, well-meaning bureaucratic stupidity, caused World War II. Which is kind of where I stand on this whole thing of somehow we're entrusting fallible humans to get a clue and work to improve the lives of themselves and their constituents, rather than saying, "Ooh, we need this. We're going to take this more."
Okay, 2 comments now then. To go back to what Jim, you said, I can cite maybe a dozen personal instances of people. Some of them are famous and some of them are my neighbors, but where we may not agree on a lot of the usual stuff, politics, whatever. And, we argued through some of it and we became best friends just because we talked. I mean, it's amazing. That was the instances of that are just fascinating to me. A couple famous people actually, where I would totally disagree with them on a lot of stuff. We became pretty good friends.
Inclusion intelligence.
Yeah, and it's just, there you go. I sent you the stuff.
All right,
I did.
JB, you wanted to chime in before I stopped you.
Well, I had one more, but go ahead.
Well,
let him finish.
So the other thing, I can't solve the problem we've been talking about, but this is the engineer's view of the world. I do have a thing on innovation where engineers solve all kinds of problems that we thought were insoluble. So I would challenge the engineers somewhere to come up with devices that would totally neutralize nuclear weapons instantly. It's probably doable.
Why not? Yeah.
It's probably doable. And if we could do that, even though people, like I think you brought up bioweapons, Barbara, or whoever did, COVID, and we can probably do the same thing for that too.
Yeah.
But if we could devote our intellect, and I have no clue how, to coming up with some way to neutralize all the bad shit that's out there, we could get back to talking to each other and getting along.
Right. Communication is key. Right there. And compassion.
There's a book there. I should write the book. Or you guys can write it with me, by the way.
That'd be fun.
No, you're already tied down to another book. JB wanted to open his mouth.
Howard's been struggling, boy. Come on.
Number one, you could make mustard gas in your kitchen. Let's start there. You know,
I was more interested in napalm myself.
And the instructions to make it are on the internet.
Yeah.
So what? Everybody's going to have a gas mask in their linen closet? I don't know.
I got one in my
as far as
locker.
AI and the military, one, people can't think that fast with hypersonic missiles.
Right.
We can't react that fast when you have how many seconds from liftoff to
Yeah.
come on.
Well, we can't. That's what the engineers will come up that I talked
What's her face?
Neutralize it.
The governor of Alaska said she could see Russia from her backyard.
Right, from backyard.
Yeah. I mean, they're that close.
With a telescope.
I mean, I'm surprised nothing's bad happened in Ukraine. As far as
that's true.
Military life in today's world, come on. Hamas is far more desecrated than Nazi Germany was when they surrendered. People don't give up anymore.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
how the humans become sucked into all that stuff. That's the judgment at Nuremberg.
I don't know, but
don't get it. But
I don't like AI making my decisions. But
at some level, you're saying it's less corruptible.
We can't react that fast. So, am I supposed to trust the programmers and engineers that create AI to do it the way I want to do it?
Well, we know.
I don't think so. Everybody goes into every situation with preconceived notions on how the world should work. If we're even in the United States, pick your state. I happen to be in a blue state. I have Pritzker telling us how bad everything Trump does is bad. If I was over the border in Kentucky, they love Trump. You know, I'll just start there. You know,
I would say we can talk about people's opinions on it, or we could demonstrate the good and basically. So if we use our communication, so instead of talking about a concept and embody the concept, then when people are so satisfied that with their reality and are so invigorated and inspired by what's happening in their life, that it doesn't even occur to them to harm another human being or to compete to, if the competition is toward a more fulfilling outcome, then then the person they're quote unquote debating with is not about I'm right, you're wrong, or I'm 90% right, you're 10% wrong. It's a collaborative decision-making process where we admit that I could be wrong and you could be wrong, and let's find something that's solid there, which leads to a direct outcome that impacts people's lives. So it's not all all the what ifs and all the potentials, and then the negativity bias of the human mind goes to worst case scenario and catastrophizing, and I need to posture up and I need to create bigger weapons than you. Instead, you don't even get down that rabbit hole, and instead you're feasting on those human interactions, on the escalation of achievement and kindness and compassion, where nobody even reverts to opiates because the opiate is their existence and their human interactions, and they don't need to dominate anyone in order to feel fulfilled. These are the types of conversations that I like to bring to the polarization that exists, blue state, red state, this 51%, 40, or whatever it is. It's, when I did human trafficking investigations, I had Republicans and Democrats and wealthy and poor and all of the, when there's something horrific that you're resolving or preventing or healing, then everyone wants it. When there is a disabled kid who is struggling to breathe, it doesn't matter your political, religious ideology. You all jump in to do the chest compressions. When there are things like that are happening that are transcendent, we get past all the posturing and all of that type of stuff, and it all goes out the window.
Great point. We started by talking about first responders, of course.
Okay.
And I will say one thing. I now walk with a cane, and the medical reasons are
a different show.
To take forever to talk about. However, the reason I walk with a cane is so I don't fall, but I do fall, and it's reinforced my faith in mankind. I mean, people are so nice. The instances of people coming to help me selflessly, and it's just I have a million stories of so nice people coming to help me, and I wouldn't have necessarily thought about that so much before, but people are basically nice.
All right.
Point.
So I want to reel us back in here. because ultimately we're talking about AI in the military. And where you gentlemen are talking about, the military no longer needs to exist when we hit that point, unless we're fighting off AI folk or alien invaders. And this is not to say we have any bias against them. So,
aliens might be nice. We don't know.
They're already here. That's how only way I can explain certain individuals in the news. So, before I give Howard a voice, Jim Boswell's been waiting for quite a bit to open his mouth.
Well, whatever thought I had, Fred, has gone. Sorry.
It's somewhere around there.
All right. So while you go for the thoughts, Howard, go ahead and open your mouth.
We talked. Somebody floated the idea that the engineers that
was
should
Jim.
be able to dismantle all the nuclear weapons before they're launched.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to put that in the hands of people that I don't even know, that I didn't elect, that I don't know their philosophy of life or unlife?
Well, that's my basic assumption, Howard, is that all engineers are good guys, but that's a personal bias.
That's of course.
I find most computer engineers territorial.
It's a fear. It's a fear of someone is going to harm me, and so if we react to it, all then depends on what we do with our fear, and do we feel that we have recourse or a way to address that fear in a way that's satisfying, because that unchecked fear, then it'll allow us then to do anything we want. We'll say, they made me scared, so I felt the need to defend myself, so I'm going to obliterate. So it's all, if we find different ways to deal with our fear and to deal with others in that way, I think that's then where that takes us.
I get that. Go ahead, Boswell.
I got my thought back again.
Yay.
I was going to bring in, I've always been kind of a science fiction nut, so I'm going to take this back to Dr. Asimov's novels about the robotics 3 laws. And the reason the robotics 3 laws worked is they were universally applicable. They had to be in every robot. Well, if we all agree that nuclear weapons need to be constrained, it can't be just one country doing it. They all have to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is creating consensus about the value of human life, right, being more important than our petty little grudges and our greed and our aggressions.
So I want to
and work towards it.
I want to take where Jim went, that Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. I grew up with that. Okay. The problem is you will not put that in a military system, because that is detracting from the military's blunt force trauma mission of, when we send you in, we send you in to blow the living shit out of the enemy so we can save the world from fascism, Nazism, communism, whatever.
Yeah.
and the other thing I'm going to go with that is,
and the New York Yankees, by the way.
And the New York Yankees. I do not believe. I do not believe that any government or any software companies, hardware chip manufacturers, because again, the 3 laws of Asimov's 3 laws of robotics should be ingrained at the chip level.
What are the 3? Anybody have the 3 laws? So
no robot can harm an individual by direct action. No robot could allow harm to come through to a human being through indirect action. In other words, I'm not going to do something, whatever. And a robot, if it does not violate 1 and 2, should attempt to save itself in a bad situation.
Yeah. So let's back up to real life. You recognize that every computer system and every missile, hypersonic missile, torpedo, whatever it is, has semiconductors in it, right? I was from that industry. Should the semiconductor industry, when the military came to it, said, no, we're not doing that? Okay? Does a company have a right to simply say, no, we don't want to be involved in this. We don't believe you're right. And, you know, had they done it, it would be a different story today, would it not? But in defense of somebody else, somebody else would have done it.
Somebody else is going to do it. Yeah,
We forced our hand to do it in self-defense because, again, we're not on the same song sheet.
That's a really interesting point. I'll tell one short story. One of the first company that I ran was an AI company out of MIT, and this was 40 years ago. And so all these really smart guys from MIT.
No, you're a smart guy.
No, they were way smart. For sure. And so the company was in trouble. We got it fixed, but it turns out we had developed some technology that was used almost exclusively for the defense industry. You know, Lawrence Livermore Labs, National Security Agency, and so the employees. This was in the company's in Amherst, Massachusetts. So this tells a little bit of the story. Called a company meeting and told me that they were opposed to doing any business with the government, which is what just came up. And so we since all of our revenue came from the government,
I know.
So the compromise we reached was, but it's sort of the question that was raised. The compromise we reached was if any of them, if we had a consulting project specifically that one of them had to do for the government, they could opt out. But that was a really good question. I mean, that was raised just now, but it came up in that company for sure. Wow. Exactly that question.
Barbara, you want to chime in here?
Well, here's what I've been thinking about listening to all of this conversation, and that is what makes somebody have the fear and what causes somebody to want to inflict pain on another person. And if we step back and ask those questions, doesn't it come down to our children and how they are raised and what information and what thoughts are put into their heads about, I don't know, being afraid in the world, right? And doesn't it all start with our children? And then the song Sting made popular, I hope the Russians love their children too, came to mind. You know, it's just,
that's a good one.
You know,
it is. Wow.
Maybe that's where we need to begin.
That's what we should.
Yeah, and I mean, sociological researchers, they say that $1 spent during early childhood literacy leads to a prevention of $16 later in life being spent on all of the things that come from incarceration, sociological projects, addiction, overcome poverty, et cetera. And you can see, you know, the amount of prevention, and that's a trend that's really popping up is prevention, action, and ultimately that's you know, we can spend, you know, I don't know how many billions of dollars on all of the, you know, incarceration, antisocial behavior, you know, all the things that come from human beings who don't get along with other human beings. But if we took a fraction of that and ensured that mothers had care during you know, during pregnancy and delivery, and in those formative development stages where you encircle that life with this, you know, the 8 levels of wellness, you invest heavily in that. That's an entirely different human being than the world has ever seen before. If you incorporate tech, if you incorporate, you know, all of these different aspects and investing in that, and they have, and parents have the time and the balance in their schedules to be emotionally aware, and you know, all of these things that we're talking about, an absolute revolution in the human experience. And I would agree with you that those moments of that childhood development, we're talking, and I'll let others speak, but I could go on for hours.
Franklin County Children's Services has a mission that says you protect children by strengthening families. And I always say, if that would be America's or the world's mission, man, what a great, because it would prevent all those many of those crazy things. All right,
so that's fine. That's your last word. We're running out of time. Howard, your last word on this topic.
If if we go back to the 60s, at the high point of Americans going to church, we were making bombs up the wazoo. What makes morality, what makes ethics happen? It's not religion.
I have an answer, and I'm not going to give it till everyone else is done.
I mean,
although to go back to, it's not a religious.
I just got to leave it there. If religion worked, bingo, we would have been there in the 50s and 60s when over 70% of the population of America was going to church.
The Jim W's comment, though, and this is not assuming we, this is not a religious statement necessarily, except that God designed mankind around families, actually, which when you think about it is amazing. And to Jim W's comment, if we could do better at that, we'd be better off.
If we could break it down, just like the differences in nations, break it down to all the different belief structure and bringing the data and the science into really what creates that what creates that human. Is it, there's all sorts of language in that. You get it from different.
We're running out of time. Mr. Boswell, final thoughts.
I think I've really said my piece. I would like to think it would be better than it is. My fear is that we're past a point where we really have control over what we're doing. And whether that's a moral issue at a human level, or a choice of leadership issue, or if it's the underlying technology, I still think we have a chance to control the technology. I'm not sure we control the humans that are controlling the technology.
All right, so I'll give you my final answer, and then we're out. Is you guys said children? I disagree. You mess with me, you got a problem. You mess with my daughter, she'll make it your problem really, really bad. So to do harm, to seriously do harm to somebody who hasn't directly done harm to me, is you mess with my grandkids and I will release the armies of heaven and hell and Armageddon on you until you are dust. That, when you look at the grandchildren, that's the one we're building a better world for. Because you know what? They're here because of our direct actions. Ooh, how about that one? How's that good, Barbara?
Global.
Actually, C.S. Lewis wrote what you just said.
Yeah, I know. Chronicles of Narnia.
Go ahead on, Jim. Put it on it.
So, want to thank all of our guests, Jim White Sr., Jim Treleaven, Jim Boswell, to matching our three J's, Howard Larson, the Viking marketing man, and Ben Biddick, who is taking us to the whole Matrix thing with hooking people up, as well as my co-host, Barbara Wainwright, who has kept her California femaleness very, very muted for this really heavy
femaleness.
Hey, she's the only estrogen around here. There's a way.
That's right.
She knows how I felt in the estrogen level. So, folks, we'll be back.
She has enough to make up for the rest of us.
I get it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode that Barbara takes the topic of. Until then, keep listening to all the great shows on KPHRED.com. We'll see you very soon, or we'll hear you very soon. Thanks again, folks, for listening. Come to KPHRED Music and help us reign.